we moved down to Texas. Senator John Cornyn there running for re-election. It's an R+5 seat. He won with almost 54%. I know there's a bit of a primary there. From your perspective, I just want to know, should we on the Republican side be worried? I know some people say this primary doesn't help us. It takes away money that could otherwise be spent helping other seats. It could potentially lead to Democrats. Are you worried about who the Dems could be and put Texas in play, or should we feel fairly safe about Texas?
Yeah, look, Chuck Schumer desperately wants to put Texas in play, because if Texas gets put in play, it does change the face of this map. And it does change the composition math that he's using to try to take the majority for his East Coast elite. So we do have to keep an eye on Texas. You know, Senator Thune has endorsed John Cornyn. John Cornyn has done a great job for Texas. I think the challenge here is, does that lead to a door opening for Chuck Schumer? We know that Colin Allred's talking about running again. He ran against Ted Cruz. This is a state that they want to put millions and millions of dollars into. If this becomes a money suck, that does become a big challenge. And that's what we have to make sure that we are not doing, is risking red Texas to try to give it to New York liberal Chuck Schumer. And that's exactly what we have to avoid. That's exactly what they want to do to stop President Trump's agenda. And look, the Texas, the front lines of the economy, the front lines of the border, it's a lot is at risk for the great state of Texas in this election if it goes the wrong way.
All right, guys, happy Memorial Day. I hope you are having a good day. For a lot of people, it's a day off. I want to thank everyone who has sacrificed for this nation. Big difference, you know, Veterans Day in November, but today we honor those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. I want to thank all of those people who have served our nation, paid the ultimate price so that we can have the freedom to have these discussions and barbecues and a freedom of assembly and all the great things that we can do because people were willing to lay down their lives for us. Today, I want to have a discussion or bring back a discussion I had with Senator Cory Gardner. He leads the Senate Leadership Fund. I've said this before. If President Trump doesn't keep a Senate majority, he loses the ability to get his people confirmed. The House is important because they're going to go into impeachment overdrive. The Senate's important because they get the nominations through. And I think we have a really good chance when we look at the map at keeping this thing. So today on Memorial Day, I figured I would let us revisit that conversation that I had with Cory Gardner and go through the Senate map. Next week, we've got a great, or later this week, we've got a great lineup coming your way. We'll get into all things Trump as they get re-engaged, and we watch that bill continue to move through Congress. So without further ado, Senator Cory Gardner. Senator Gardner, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to see you.
You bet. All right, I just want to start before we get into the map and go, for people who aren't familiar, explain what the Senate Leadership Fund does and what your role is within it.
Yeah, the Senate Leadership Fund is really the first organization of its kind to and solely support the Senate Republican majority and a Republican majority in the Senate. The only organization of its kind, the largest organization of its kind with a sole focus on a Republican majority in the United States Senate.
So you used to be the chairman of the National Republican Senatorial Committee when you were in the Senate. What's the difference between that organization and what you do now?
Yeah, the National Republican Senatorial Committee, which I chaired during the 2018 cycle, the first midterm of President Trump's first term, the midterm in President Trump's term, that is an organization that is voted on by the members of the conference within the Senate. It's a leadership position as part of the Senate majority now, the Republican majority. And it's a hard dollar organization, meaning that there is a limit on how much money can go to that organization using hard dollars only. The Senate Leadership Fund is an outside organization. We are a 527 super PAC with an affiliated organization that is One Nation, a 501c4. So this organization, Senate Leadership Fund, really is driving that outside effort.
And what do you do with the dollars? So donors give you money, and then what is it that you guys do? Because there's advertising, there's door knocking, there's mailers, there's polling. Is there something that you guys specialize in, or do you do it all?
Yeah, I mean, we are specializing in keeping a Republican Senate majority, but we will do anything and everything within that to make sure that we achieve that goal. So that is polling, that is modeling and canvassing, that is going out and looking at the work that we are doing with others in the ecosystem, Sentinel Action Fund, for instance, and working together to try to make sure that we grow that Senate Republican majority. But yeah, it's out talking to candidates, prospective opportunities. So it really is all of the above.
All right, then the last question before we get into the map, how do you guys decide who you work for? So if I want to run, I grew up in Rhode Island, or I live now in Virginia, and I say, gosh, I want to run, will the Senate Leadership Fund back me? And how do I get you guys to put money into a race if I were to run for Senate in Virginia? I'm not, my wife won't allow me, just so we're clear. But how does one make the case, or how do you guys decide who you're getting behind?
Yeah, look, we're gonna look for the best opportunity to win that seat, to grow that majority, to retain the majority, and that's exactly what we're doing. So we're going to be talking to candidates. We're going to be talking about organizations. We're looking at who's got this opportunity to win and to promote the Republican agenda, the conservative opportunity that we have to work with President Trump and to make sure that we are actually accomplishing that goal of furthering the Senate Republican leadership with President Trump.
All right. Before we get into the full map of the seats that are what we call in cycle, the third of the Senate that's in cycle, there are two, special elections, if you will. People were appointed to seats that were vacated. We'll get into both of those. And so they're now up for the remainder of the term. The first one's in Ohio. Senator then Jd Vance is now Vice President Vance. The governor appointed the lieutenant governor. Is that a definite hold for us?
Look, we're going to keep an eye on both of them, but I think I feel very good about Senator Moody and Senator Husted in terms of where they stand in their state, their ability to keep a primary away to make sure that they're focusing on a general election. I feel good about their organizations. I feel good about the state that they're in. But you never know. I mean, if somebody like a Sherrod Brown were to decide to run again, that would be a costly race in Ohio. So we're always making sure that we keep an eye on it, that we have no surprises, that nobody can sneak up on these incumbents and these Republican seats.
Okay, so you mentioned you kind of led into the Florida one, but Ohio I feel pretty good at because outside of that. But then in Florida, you have Ashley Moody, the former attorney general there. Ron DeSantis appoints her. Republicans have done very well statewide there. Is there any concern that you guys have about Ashley Moody and the Democrats coming after her, or because of her statewide previous elections? Is she in solid shape?
We feel very good about Senator Moody. Her statewide experience, are exactly right. Her understanding of the state, her previous fundraising abilities. Florida has moved solidly in the Republican direction. But, it's not always been that, and it's not been that long ago. Remember, when Senator Rubio first got elected, it was a little bit of an insurgency campaign. And so the state has changed a lot since then, obviously. So we're going to make sure that we keep working with Senator Moody, keeping our eye on the prize, and that is that Republican majority. We're not going to take it for granted. We know she's not either. She's a great candidate. She's a great senator and will be a great senator going forward. We want to make sure it stays that way.
In Ohio, you mentioned someone like former Senator Sherrod Brown. Is there anyone in Florida that you'd think, I just can't think off the top of my head. They've thrown a lot at the Republicans in the last couple of cycles. I can't think of anyone that comes top of mind on the Democratic side that would pose a big threat to her. Can you?
No, it's interesting talking to a number of Democrat sort of activists or strategists about Florida. They all talk about how the Democratic bench has been fairly well cleaned out in Florida, up and down every ticket from the local level to the federal level. It is going to be very difficult for them to find candidates. There's a mayor, I believe, somewhere in the Miami area that we continue to hear about. But look, this is going to be a challenging environment for them to try to come out and win this and to take on somebody like Ashley Moody. But again, we're not going to take it for granted. We're going to make sure that we are doing everything we can to hold that seat, grow and expand the majority.
All right, let's get into your former colleagues. I'm going to start with what they would consider the solid red seats, just to make sure that we have no concerns there. First one in alphabetical order, Alabama, Senator Tuberville. This is an R plus 15 seat, Republican 15 seat. When we say R plus 15, he won it with 60% when he first ran. Any concerns, anything that we have to worry about with Alabama?
No, there's been speculation that Senator Tuberville may decide he wants to run for governor. I don't think that's the case. Again, I think he's fully committed to the seat in the Senate. But look, I feel very good about Alabama. He's done a great job fighting for that state and will continue to.
But even if Senator Tuberville, and it's funny because before he ran for the Senate, he had flirted with governor then too. But if he were, would you have any concerns about Alabama even as an open seat?
No, look, this is a Republican state. I think the people of Alabama want a Republican. They want somebody who's working with President Trump, not against President Trump. and that's exactly what they're going to do. So you're right. I think I feel good about Senator Tuberville. If he should decide to do something else, I feel good about the people of Alabama making the right decision to continue with President Trump's agenda.
All right, staying with the A's, but moving way west, we're going to Alaska. Your former colleague, Dan Sullivan there. Alaska right now is an R+8 seat. He won with 54% last time. The issue, though, is that it seems like a little bit of a finicky statewide. Sullivan's obviously in a position where he's run. He's got strong national security credentials. He happens to be the chair of the Board of Visitors at the U.S. Naval Academy, where I will serve now.
Right.
But is he, because of his status as current senator, in good shape, or do we have to worry about any kind of shifting dynamics in Alaska or any of these former Democrats that have run and done okay on the House side?
I think it's important to remember Alaska has a Democrat-controlled legislature,
right?
And so when you think about places like Alaska, you think about places like Kansas, you think about places like Iowa. It wasn't that long ago that you had Tom Harkin in Iowa. It wasn't that we have a Democrat governor in Kansas. And just like Alaska, you have a Democrat legislature in Alaska. So, I mean, these are states that they look ruby red. You think about them as ruby red, but then you get into it, you're like, wait a minute. So Senator Sullivan is an incredible representative for the state of Alaska, the people of Alaska. I served with him in the Senate for 6 years. His first thought in the morning when he wakes up is Alaska. When he goes to bed, the first thing on his mind as he goes into bed is Alaska, and he is going to make sure he's fighting for that state time and time again. And so they've got a great representative. The people of Alaska know it. But again, this is a state that we're not going to take for granted and say, oh, it's ruby red, we don't have to worry about it. We're going to work with the people on the ground to make sure that he retains that seat, continues to be the champion that Alaska needs.
All right, we'll keep that one in the red column for now, barring anything. Let's keep in the A's for one last moment here. Arkansas, Tom Cotton there, +16 seat in Arkansas. He won with 67%. I know we don't want to take anything for granted. We never want to take our eye off the ball. But if there's a state which we can kind of maybe look a little off the ball, I feel like it's Arkansas. Tom Cotton should be good, right?
Yeah, I'm very confident in Tom. He's done an incredible job in Arkansas, and I works hard, very hard. So yeah, I feel very good about Arkansas. And again, a state that wants to continue working with President Trump, and they know if they do anything different, that goes away.
All right, out of the A's, but in the vowels, Idaho, your former colleague Jim Risch, another one, +18 there, 67%. I feel, again, this is one where we should feel pretty good. Idaho is not a place where I would assume we have to worry too much.
There's been no Canadian invasion of Idaho, and I feel very good about it. I feel good about Senator Risch, and again, he's done an incredible job standing up, fighting for the President Trump agenda, the conservative agenda in the Senate. That'll continue.
Okay, then let's keep in the eyes for a second. You mentioned Tom Harkin a second ago. We're in Iowa now. Joni Ernst, the senator there, the incumbent, is up. Iowa is only a +R6 seat. She won by 51.7, little closer than the past few senators we've talked about. How much of an eye should we be keeping on Iowa?
Joni will win re-election, but Iowa is a state where somebody like Chuck Schumer could try to come in, spend some money just to create some problems. There's going to be an open governor's seat now in Iowa. And it wasn't that long ago where you had Democrat representation of the state. So, but Joni will win this seat. She's a phenomenal leader. This is a campaign she started in 2014, coming to Washington to make them squeal. She continues that work, and I feel good about the warrior that we have in Joni Ernst.
Yeah, she's one of those politicians. Everyone talks about going back to their state or whatever. Every time I hear about Iowa, it's Joni Ernst doing some kind of event. You talk about her squealing. I mean, she's got this big pig roast that she does.
The roast and ride she has is a legendary roast and ride that presidential candidates are all trying to get to. Yeah.
Okay. Any Dems there that you can think of off the top of your head? I mean, I think they've tried, but she does a great job for Iowa. But I also can't think of anyone that would do that, would be able to do it.
Yeah, look, I haven't heard any one particular name on the Democratic side rise to the level of hey, this is a major threat. But we're going to again make sure that we are keeping that seat. We can't have this success that we need with tax cuts and opportunities for the Trump agenda if she isn't in that seat. So we need to make sure that she stays.
Okay, so let's try to move a little now down to Kansas. Roger Marshall, doctor, very active on media. You mentioned Kansas. It's a plus R seat there. He won with 53% last time. Kansas is one of those states you mentioned that's a little weird because people assume it's ruby red, but they've not always hewed to the straight Republican line.
Yeah, that's right. And so I think Roger, again, a candidate who's doing the work, he's back home, he's in the district, he's fighting for the state. He will win re-election. He will make sure that this is done. But Kansas, the Democrat governor, remember Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, Kathleen Sebelius was the governor of Kansas. And so we're not gonna let anything go on. I live in eastern Colorado, about 30 miles away from the Kansas border. I remember a year ago at this time, we started seeing ads for a guy named Dan Osborne in Nebraska. And all of a sudden that race started to be a little bit more competitive than it should have been in Nebraska. We're not going to let that same thing happen in Kansas and making sure that Roger Marshall's doing the work to support the agenda.
All right, staying in the K's for a second. Kentucky. Senator McConnell stepping down, not seeking re-election. It's an open seat. It's an R+16 district. McConnell won last time by 58%. But I think people forget it wasn't an easy race for Senator McConnell. He spent a lot of money. You've got a Democratic governor, as you do in Kansas there in Kentucky with Beshear. Any concern that it might get messy, give Democrats an opportunity? This is one of those ones that does actually give me a little bit of pause because if the Republicans screw up here, I see an opportunity, to your point, where Democrats can keep an eye and say, hey, maybe we get in there, but only with the right candidate.
Yeah, I think they've got to pitch a perfect game for their candidate and find somebody who can win in a state that has moved clearly toward this new Republican idea and opportunity. So I think if you look at where they are, you've got three potential candidates, three current candidates, at least three people talking about the race: Daniel Cameron, Andy Barr, Nate Morris. So, I mean, you've got three people who are talking about it. There may be others in the race. Again, this will be a primary, but I feel good about this maintaining a Republican senator.
And is it on the Dem side, is it just that you got a popular guy like Beshear, or do they have a bench there as well?
You have Beshear, but nobody really talks about anything else outside of that. And again,
Right.
If Beshear's looking at this race, I don't see how he can align with Chuck Schumer in a state like Kentucky and convince the people of Kentucky that he and Chuck Schumer are going to fight for the state. That's just not the case.
Yeah, that I don't see Chuck Schumer playing too well in Kentucky.
You can do a lot of things with campaign magic, but I think that's beyond magic and into the territory.
I don't think liberal New York Chuck Schumer is going to play well in Kentucky.
No, that's exactly.
All right, let's get out of the K's and go to the L's. Let's go down to Louisiana. Dr. Cassidy there, Republican plus 12 seat. He won with 59%. It seems like regardless, like Louisiana, I don't want to put it in the full-on Arkansas bucket right now, but I feel like with Jeff Landry as governor, Louisiana's in a very good Republican slot. I just don't get the sense. Now, granted, you know more than I do in this sense, but I feel like Louisiana is one that maybe you keep your eye on, but I don't see how Democrats have any success statewide there.
Yeah, completely agree with you. I think, the Democratic Party really has abandoned states like Louisiana. Just last night, you saw Joe Biden give a speech where he was condemning people like those in Alabama who voted for Donald Trump. Not just condemning, but basically saying that the people who support Donald Trump are bad people. And it's outrageous that he continues to say that. It's outrageous that anybody would continue to think that half of the American people are just bad people. But yet that's what they think. And so that's, again, reason why Republicans are going to continue to keep Louisiana red. I believe Bill Cassidy will do the job there. But it is a state that is going to continue supporting Donald Trump in that agenda.
All right, moving east, Cindy Hyde-Smith in Mississippi. That's a state that is an R+11 state. She won with 54%, a little lower on the number that she won last time with, 54. Any concern about Mississippi at all?
No, I mean, again, these are states that are solidly in the camp of President Trump, making sure that they're doing everything they can to support that winning agenda in the Senate. She's a great member. She'll continue to win and see success. This is a state that will remain in that red column.
Okay. Staying in the M's, your successor at the NRSC, Steve Daines from Missouri.
Great job as chairman, responsible for the majority. Fantastic.
Well, hopefully he's got as much political sense statewide as he does nationally, because he's got a state there plus 11 on the R side. He wanted 55%. I got to believe that this is Steve Daines has done a phenomenal job, as you put it, both on the national stage. He had a shot at joining Senate leadership, at least. And he's just, I think, a very humble guy that puts his nose to the grindstone, does a good job. Clearly does that same thing for Montana. And I got to believe that he's in really solid shape.
He is. But, again, this is amazing. Steve Daines was the first Republican to hold the seat that he won in 100 years. And I mean, the fact that you now have two Republicans in the United States Senate representing Montana, you have a Republican at-large member, two members at-large now. No longer have an at-large member. You have two members in Montana, both Republican. This is a state that has moved solidly to the conservative movement, and in the conservative movement will remain red. Steve's done a phenomenal and outstanding job, and he'll hold that seat for sure.
All right, Nebraska, I feel very confident. You got Senator Pete Ricketts, former Governor Pete Ricketts, R plus 13 districts, 63%. We're good, right?
We're good. Nobody's going to sneak up on Pete Ricketts, that's for sure.
All right. Well, if we want to talk about another really good state, we go to Oklahoma, Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. It's an R plus 20 seat. He won with 62%. Same thing. I mean, statewide, these guys have own it. I got to believe that Oklahoma is solid Republican. You're not going to lose any sleep over that.
Man, at the verge of risking any kind of theatrical performance here, Oklahoma is okay.
Good. I like that. Senator Graham there in South Carolina, he won last time. He put on, the Dems tried to throw everything at the guy. He won with 54%. It's an R plus 8 seat in South Carolina. Any concern there?
No, President Trump has endorsed Lindsey Graham. I think his primary opponents dropped out of the race as a result. And I think, he's well on his way to re-election.
All right. South Dakota, again, another former governor, Mike Rounds, current senator, won with 67% last time. South Dakota's a plus 16 seat. Obviously, that's also the home of Senate Majority Leader John Thune. I don't think we have to spend too much time in South Dakota, right?
That's correct. He will win re-election, a great senator, a great governor. He'll continue that job for President Trump and the Senate majority.
Okay, and I say only not too much time in there unless we want a vacation. Of course, that's
that's right. That I'm partial to Black Hills, but I'm sure
All right, Tennessee. You've got Bill Hagerty there, former ambassador to Japan. I worked with Bill when he was in the 2016 campaign, led our personnel efforts, and went off to be ambassador. Then ran for Senate. Won in Tennessee. Won with 62%, plus 14 seat. There in Tennessee, obviously, Marsha Blackburn, another phenomenal senator. I don't see any issues with Tennessee. Do you?
No, that's exactly right. President Trump actually made Bill Hagerty one of his first endorsements, one of his first set of endorsements. So that will continue to be a great win for Republicans.
All right, we move down to Texas. Senator John Cornyn there running for re-election. It's an R plus 5 seat. He won with almost 54%. I know there's a bit of a primary there. From your perspective, I just want to know, should we on the Republican side be worried? I know some people say this primary doesn't help us. It takes away money that could otherwise be spent helping other seats. It could potentially lead to Democrats. Are you worried about who the Dems could be and put Texas in play, or should we feel fairly safe about Texas?
Yeah, look, Chuck Schumer desperately wants to put Texas in play, because if Texas gets put in play, it does change the face of this map. And it does change the composition math that he's using to try to take the majority for his East Coast elite. So we do have to keep an eye on Texas. You know, Senator Thune has endorsed John Cornyn. John Cornyn has done a great job for Texas. I think the challenge here is, does that lead to a door opening for Chuck Schumer? We know that Colin Allred's talking about running again. He ran against Ted Cruz. This is a state that they want to put millions and millions of dollars into. If this becomes a money suck, that does become a big challenge. And that's what we have to make sure that we are not doing, is risking red Texas to try to give it to New York liberal Chuck Schumer. And that's exactly what we have to avoid. That's exactly what they want to do to stop President Trump's agenda. And look, Texas, the front lines of the economy, the front lines of the border. It's a lot is at risk for the great state of Texas in this election if it goes the wrong way.
Okay. We got two more safe Republican seats. West Virginia, Shelley Moore Capito. I knew Shelley when she first got elected to the House. She's another hardworking member that pays attention to her state, but also she's got a storied family history there that, you know, her father was governor. Now she's got like a bunch of kin running around elected in West Virginia as well. Shelley won last time with 70%. West Virginia, a 22 plus Republican seat. Senator Jim Justice, the former governor, he just got elected there. I think that we're pretty safe in West Virginia. Yes.
Yes.
And again, I think to your point, that wasn't always the case. Like,
it's right. It's moved, but look, I mean, West Virginia moved, but the Democratic Party moved away because, again, the very people that Joe Biden is condemning are the people who supported President Trump because they were getting screwed by the Democrats. So, I mean, I think this is a state that Senator Capito will win. But you're right. It wasn't that long ago. That was a different story.
All right. Wyoming, Cynthia Loomis, 71% she won with last time, an R plus 25C. Nothing to worry about in Wyoming.
She will continue her great representation in Wyoming in the red column.
Okay, just for people watching at home right now, if you're not watching on video, we've got 18 Republican seats that we feel pretty good about up for re-election that we've put in the red map. I want to run through the Dem seats that people consider fairly safe. I'll get your take on these, and then we'll get to the few swing seats that are at play. So right now, Bo, if we just do nothing based on those seats, Republicans maintain their majority at 51, and we're not done yet. But there are 9 seats the Democrats think that they're safe. Let's run through them quickly. The first one is your home state, Colorado. Hickenlooper, it's a D+4 state. He won with 53.5% last time. You of all people know, is there any chance that Colorado could swing back Republican?
I absolutely believe that there is. And if you look at the recent polling that shows the Democratic Party has incredible unfavorable ratings right now in the state. There's a lot of dissatisfaction with the Democratic Party right now. You've got a state legislature that is taking away parental rights, that is taking away guns, that's banning certain types of guns. You've got a state legislature that's looking at taking their income tax from 4.5% to 12%. This is very personal to me.
I know.
It is moving so far left that even the leftists are starting to be concerned. So there is an opportunity to win in a state like Colorado.
Do we have a bench there at all?
We do. We've got some state legislators that are talking about it. Mark Baisley is talking about it. People like Barbara Kirkmeyer may be interested in running for the Senate. Some local sheriffs are interested in it. I think this is a sleeper race because they've just gone too far.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you look at 53.5. I think this is a great opportunity to get in there and spend the money.
That's right.
With the drift. But let's move from the C's to the D's. Delaware, Chris Coons up. It's a D+7 seat. He won 59%. I don't remember a Republican getting elected statewide since Mike Castle, the former governor turned House member, and that's going back a few years. So I mean, again,
Delaware will be tough, but look, we'll take a look at see what kind of candidate we can recruit there.
All right, I'm going to move to go out of alphabetical order for a minute because I want to end with Illinois on the safe side. But Ed Markey in Massachusetts, D+15 seat, won with 66% rather last time. I don't see an issue there in Massachusetts, right?
I hope that one day we'll see some people wake up in Massachusetts. So far, they're waking up not to a red sunrise.
All right. So the last one that they put, or not, excuse me, not the last one, but on Illinois, I went out of order by mistake here. Dick Durbin, +7 seat in Illinois. He won with 55%, but he's not raising money right now. It had a horrible first quarter, which is leading a ton of people to believe he's not running for re-election. Whether he runs or not, is Illinois in play?
I think it is. Look, and I think we can spend some money there and make sure that we find out how competitive we can be. Look, he didn't win. His margins haven't been that great. They're soft. You have a lot of dissatisfaction in Chicago with the direction of the liberal policies that have taken the city and the state. You've got a lot of dissatisfaction in other cities around Illinois. Very worried about the lack of opportunity, the economic sort of flatness that they've seen in parts of the state. So I think there's an opportunity to go for a state and see what happens.
Okay.
State like
New Jersey, Cory Booker, Spartacus himself, the man who loves to talk for 24 hours straight, won by, it's a 57% last time. It's a D+6 state. Republicans feel very high about New Jersey for some reason. Scott Pressler and others are going in there, and I wish them the best. I hope they're right. I've always said New Jersey is like Lucy with the football and Charlie Brown. Everybody gets excited, and it gets yanked away at the last minute. Is New Jersey worth getting our hopes up for, or is this just one of these things, like I said, Lucy in the football, we get excited and it gets pulled away at the last moment?
Look, we have to try to kick that ball still, right? And if you look at how President Trump did in New Jersey, he actually ran very close in New Jersey. And I think if we can find that right mix of candidate to represent the values and opportunities, look, Cory Booker's flying down to El Salvador to complain about the treatment of somebody who was deported on a deportation order. Has Cory Booker visited the victims of crime in the United States who lost loved ones as a result of an illegal alien killing that loved one? Not to my knowledge, but yeah, he's willing to fly out of the country to go to a prison to try to talk about somebody on a deportation order. So I do think there's an opportunity to go after a state like New Jersey and see where we can have that opportunity to kick the ball.
Yeah, I agree. New Mexico, Ben Ray Lujan. This is an interesting state to me. It's very, I put it almost in the same category as New Jersey. It's a D+3 state. He only won with 51.7%. But I feel like we've tried this on some of the House races, on the governor's races. We go after it, we get close, we don't come up. In my opinion, this is a candidate issue, like meaning we need a good candidate with good money. What do you guys think?
I completely agree. Look, they're a four-corner state along with Colorado. I've grown up going to New Mexico, my entire childhood for family trips and friendships. Look, I think the right candidate can find that right moment in New Mexico. This is a state that has seen an energy industry that has created so many jobs and opportunities under attack by the liberal left. They want to keep those jobs. They want to see them flourish. That's not what the Democratic Party wants, and that's why I think there's an opportunity in New Mexico.
Is there anybody that's sticking their head up? I know we have a couple former Republican members of Congress. Is there anybody that is jumping on the radar that kind of maybe?
At this point, I don't think there's a leader in that horse race, but I do think there's some great name recognition candidates that have great name recognition, whether they've run before, run in the past. I think they can do it again. But eventually, I do believe New Mexico will flip into that red column. I can't say that that's going to happen this time, but I believe it could happen this time.
Okay. Good. We'll keep our eye on it. Oregon, Jeff Merkley. It's a D+6 state, 57% he won with last time. This is one where it's funny because the margins aren't as big as you would think. And maybe it's just because it's further out west and I pay less attention to it. But I don't think I don't put that on the list of states where I would think that we have a shot at.
It's a reach. Look, if we find an opportunity there, we'll make it happen. But again, it's a tougher state than some of these others.
All right. Speaking of tougher states, I grew up in Rhode Island. I still go back to Rhode Island a lot. Jack Reed, former chairman of the Armed Services Committee. Jack's been in office a long time. Rhode Island is a very small state. He won with 66% last time. It's a D+8 seat. Except for some governors, I don't think that we have sent, since Link Chafee was in the Senate and since Ron Makeley was in the House, I don't know that we have ever had elected a Republican in the congressional delegation in quite some time. I wish I could. I just don't feel like that there's a lot of hope there.
Yeah, no, it's a tough one. My home county, I think, is almost the same size as Rhode Island. And you
guys love to say that. It's like all the people in Texas go, "Oh, my county's bigger than your state." You got to come and raise money in Newport, and that's it. That's it.
Yeah, so it would be nice, but again, not one of our priorities right now.
All right. Well, what about the state that I currently live in and vote in, Virginia? Mark Warner, it's a D+3 state. He won with 56% last time. He got he's had some tough races. We have a Republican governor, a Republican lieutenant governor, a Republican attorney general statewide. But it's these federal races that keep giving us trouble. where do you guys put Virginia on the list?
Virginia and Colorado are very similar. That we've got chances to win these statewide races. We've won statewide races there. We have Republicans in the delegation, and so, but yet the federal races we've had a difficult time. Mark Warner has come very close in a few of these races. You think about this very cycle, this very map in 2014. Ed Gillespie almost pulled this race up, and so with the right candidate, with the right environment, we can win in Virginia. So it's certainly not off the list. It's not a state leading some of the efforts that like we can talk about a little bit like Georgia or Michigan, but again, it's a state that we have to be competitive in.
Right, I agree. But right now, we'll keep it in the blue column. All right. That being said, if everything holds where the prognosticators have the solid blue and the solid red, that gives Republicans 51 seats, Democrats 43. And right now, we've got 6 seats where are up for grabs. And so let's just run through these quick. On Georgia, this is to me one that should be ripe for Republican pickup. Jon Ossoff won this state last time with 50.6%. Okay, it's an R+3 district. President Trump carried that, but he just raised $11 million. I think the question that everybody wants to know is Governor Kemp running?
Look, Governor Kemp would be a phenomenal candidate. He would win, but I think no matter who wins in Georgia, we will win in Georgia. Jon Ossoff has he's towed the Joe Biden line. He's towed the liberal line. This is somebody who's voted against the interest of Georgians time and time again. Somebody who has voted against the prohibition of biological men playing in women's sports. That's an 80% issue in Georgia, and he's against 80% of the people. He's voted against Israel time and time again. This is somebody who is. He may have raised $11 million. He probably spent $12 million to raise that $11 million. But, I think we will win in Georgia. It's a great opportunity for us. And the people of Georgia understand what happens when you have the success of the Trump agenda or somebody who stands in the way of that. And they're going to want to be on that track of success.
All right. Red gets the state. We're putting that one. I agree with you 100%. I think Georgia's going in the column. All right. Let's get, by the way, is there anybody outside of Governor Kemp that you have your eye on? Is it?
Yeah, you've got several members of the congressional delegation that are looking at it. You've got a couple members, you've got a couple statewide elected officials that are talking about it in Georgia as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if you've got an independent business person that takes a look at this race. But I think a lot of talk is going to be about Governor Kemp. But he's not the only one who can win. I sure hope he runs. But this is a state that made a big mistake back when they sent Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, and they understand that they kind of want to undo that mistake and get in the right.
All right, let's move up to Michigan, currently held by a Democrat. This would be another pickup for the Republicans. Senator Peters there retiring. It's an R+1 district. He won with 49.9% of the vote. That was a nail biter. President Trump in 2016 barely won the state. He barely won it again this time around. So, this is an ultimate swing state. Mike Rogers, the former congressman who ran last time, is back for a second bite at the apple. Why is this going to be different this time? And is he the top dog in that race?
Senator Thune has endorsed Mike Rogers. I think if you look at his race 2 years ago, he barely lost. There was, I think, a 16,000 vote shortfall that cost the election there. I think they know where those votes were. They're going to work hard to go out and get them. And quite frankly, organizations like Senate Leadership Fund, I think, can do a better job in putting dollars into that race earlier to make a difference. And I think the ecosystem of support for that state, Mike Rogers, will be much, much better.
Okay. I'm going to put that one in the Republican column. I feel like for all of those reasons, I feel good about it. Here's one where I'm a little less concerned. Another M1, Minnesota. Senator Smith there also retiring. It's a D+1 state. She won with 48.7. Here's where I differ on Minnesota, that it's tighter. I feel better about Michigan. In Minnesota, though, even though she only won with 48.7, this is sort of, again, this is New Jersey to me, where I feel like we keep saying we can win Minnesota, and we come up short. Do we need a self-funder? What is it that our side needs in Minnesota to win that state?
Yeah, we just have to be competitive there. Now that doesn't, I can't tell you today whether that means that Republicans will win this state, but we will be competitive there. a number of great candidates, both current legislative officials as well as some people on the outside are talking about this race. We need to be competitive there. We will field somebody competitive there, and we look forward to getting behind that effort. Now, I think this could be a jump ball state right now, and I hope that we can tip it into that red column.
Okay, I'm going to put that in the blue column because I'm with you. Like they have the edge right now, in my opinion. Not my words, not yours. But I want once we see if we can get a self-funder or a big, somebody who's got some name ID, I'm willing to reconsider that. But I'll give this to him. We're early in the cycle. Let's move back north and east to New Hampshire. Senator Jeanne Shaheen also retiring. This is not good for the Democrats. All these swing seats where they are not. I mean, you think about this: Michigan, Minnesota, and now New Hampshire. Dems incumbents not running for re-election. New Hampshire, a D+1 seat. She did win with 56.6. Congressman Chris Pappas jumped in the race. The other congresswoman from that district also considering it. So let's start with this. Senator Scott Brown, top prospect there. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely right. And look, you hit on something that I think is important for not only New Hampshire, but Michigan and Minnesota, these other states. In a lot of these states where there's an open race or primaries, there is no clear frontrunner on the Democratic side. We've talked about frontrunners on the Republican side. We haven't talked about that on the Democratic side because they really don't have any. There's no big names, no Bigfoot sort of operation that can come in and be the one that carries that state from day one. So they're going to have some internal food fights. They're going to have the challenges on their side. We seem to be coalescing around candidates that President Trump supports, candidates that we know can win the majority, and that's a really good thing for us. New Hampshire, Scott Brown, you're exactly right. There may be some others that decide to get in that race there, but this is a state that no one should, on the Democratic side, should feel easy about retaining.
All right, I'm going to keep that one as a jump ball for now because I think that we've got a really good opportunity there. I think if the Dems face a primary and go head-to-head, that's a late primary state. It's September. That means if these guys go at it, if Pappas doesn't get the role, doesn't get the nod and has to fight it out, this could be very, very bloody. It could be great. I think that this has the potential. I'll keep it as a jump ball for now. But let's stay in New England and talk about Maine. Susan Collins there. This is a D+2 state. She won with 51% last time. Totally outspent. People counted her out. Big mistake counting out Susan Collins. I am one of these people. I'll be interested in your take, but I think I know where you're going to stand on this one. I believe that Susan Collins is the only hope to keep that seat, and that if anybody that can win statewide, I've been with her up there in Maine. People love her. She knows the issues. She fights hard for them. She knows, she really has her finger on the pulse of Maine. I feel that she can, with the right money and the right backing, she pulls this out again.
Yeah, she will. She is an incredible fighter. She is tough as nails. And remember, the polling in her cycle in 2020, she was down by 10 points. She won. This is a state that they know, the people of Maine know what she has done for them. They know what she continues to do for them, and they know she's a fighter, and she is everywhere in Maine. She is all over every issue, and she's going to work hard again to do this. But there are people who will try to continue to count to her out. They're going to be wrong. She will win this race, and we're looking forward to making sure that happens.
All right, last state senator is North Carolina. Tom Tillis down there. It's an R+3 district, but he only won with 48.6% of the vote. This to me has got to be one of those ones that we're going to, he probably's got the edge as an incumbent, but I have a feeling that we're going to see a boatload of cash flow into North Carolina on both sides.
Yeah, there's no cheap real estate on any of these maps. Georgia, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. North Carolina could be a $500 million Senate race. These are outrageous, outlandish numbers. I remember back in the very first Senate campaign I worked on was 2002. I think all in it was like $30 million, and that was outrageous then. We're talking $500 million all in some of these seats. So this will be a very expensive race. Somebody like Wiley Nickel that they're talking about running right now. I think Tillis is actually looking forward to a race against in that scenario because he knows he can win. So, and will win in that. And look, we're looking forward to supporting that race and making sure that we do everything we can to keep that in the red column, which I believe we will.
Yeah, well, I'll put it in the red column now. That gives Republicans, even on, I think with it one jump race, you got a 55 seat majority. That's a 2-seat plus cushion. I think that's solid. I mean, coming out, picking up seats in an off year for the president, he's going to feel happy about this.
And so incredibly important for the president's agenda, because if you think about what that means, to have 55 in the Senate after this cycle is over, that means in 2028, that means in 2030, those future Senate cycles, we have another Republican who comes into the White House, keep the White House Republican. They have a Republican Senate. There will be Supreme Court justices that will need to be confirmed. This is a generational majority opportunity to preserve, continue, grow, expand the agenda.
Senator Gardner, I can't thank you enough for walking through the entire map with us, so generous of your time. Thanks for all the work that you and the Senate Leadership Fund do to keep a majority in place for President Trump.
Thanks very much for having me. It's great to talk to you. Hope to talk to you again soon.
You bet.
Thanks.
All right, guys, thanks for being with us. Have a great rest of your Memorial Day. I'll see you back here tomorrow. All new, brand new episode. Chicks on the Right are going to be here later in the week. Great panel. Go to SeanSpicer.com to sign up for the latest newsletter. Take care. And again, thank you for everyone who has sacrificed for our country. It is the greatest country on earth for a reason. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.